Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's winter, it's crisp, I'm wearing a beanie, and as you can see, it's just before first light. But what I can see is the crimsoning of the horizon. So hopefully over the next half an hour or so, we will see this city come alive with light, with movement, and hopefully we can add to it a message of empowerment. Because at the end of the day, the objective of Jim's 5am Club is to highlight and showcase the beauty that abounds us here in this wonderful country, Australia, and to overlay it with a message of empowerment. So today, what we're going to do is, like every other day, we're going to cover a book summary, try and identify 2 or 3 key messages, 2 or 3 learnings, and document it, and hopefully leverage it, use it to make the most of the learning, to apply those learnings, to try and get more out of our lives. This morning's book summary is entitled The Longevity Paradox by an author known as Stephen Gundry. So on the way in on the bus this morning, it took me about 20 minutes, half an hour. I read this book summary, summarised it, took down my notes, as you can see here. And what we'll do is we'll step through these notes one at a time and try and make some sense of this wonderful book. So the author here tells us, kicks off the book and tells us that, interestingly, in the early 1900s, we're talking about well over 100 years ago, researchers first posited that longevity is inversely related to one's metabolic rate. So what we're saying here, and they actually called it the rate of living. They called it the rate of living. So what we're saying is that if you continue to burn energy at a high rate, you will eventually burn out. Just think about that for a moment. So your rate of metabolism, the rate at which your body burns energy, may have an impact on your health, and it may have an impact on how long you live. And we're living in times where people want to have a high metabolic rate so that they burn up their calories and look trim, taunt and terrific, and they go to the gym and they work out to try and build their metabolic rate. They do resistance exercises and all of those things, and the goal is to try and increase your metabolism, to burn as many calories as you can, to look as best you can. But what the author here is saying is that there are, hundreds of years or 100 years or more of research and understanding and observation which identifies that a person's metabolic rate, if it's high, could be the last thing you want in terms of having a long and healthy life. The bottom line is that all of us want to live a long and healthy life. Nobody really plans to live an unhealthy end of life. We basically want to live as long as we can, as healthily as we can, and then one day just stop living. But unfortunately, life doesn't always work like that. And in some cases, there's a period of suffering that precedes our passing. But We've got no control over that at the end of the day. But what we do have control over are some of the things that we can do along the way to try and improve the quality of our life for as long as we can. So the author here goes on to say that the quality of our life starts with our microbiome, with that environment in our gut. As simple as it might sound, but by fasting, by eating the right foods, by not eating the wrong foods, by doing the right exercises and living the right lifestyle, what we're saying here, what the author is trying to encourage us to understand and to appreciate and to embrace, is that these things, as simple as they sound, can have a profound and a significant impact on the quality of our life and the health that we get to enjoy. So let's do a deeper dive on this. You can probably realise today that I don't have my selfie stick and I'm holding the camera, so it may be a little bit disjointed and might get a bit of tremble every now and then, but stay with me. So what we need to do now is to go a little bit deeper into this topic from a scientific perspective and do a little bit more. So you probably see where I am. I'm up here on the International Passenger Terminal. We've got the projection equipment here. This equipment here projects lights onto the magnificent Opera House, that wonderful monument there across the water. And it's all fenced off at the moment with security guards just to make sure that nobody comes up here and damages this equipment. But this is probably the heartbeat of Vivid Sydney. Vivid will go on for a few more days, I'd imagine, but it has been a spectacular and a resounding success this year. So the first formal point to come from this book, from this author, is where he tells us that we need to regulate our cardio and our animal protein intake. So we need to regulate, we need to purposefully do things in order to improve our health and to improve the prospects of us living a long and healthy life. So the call to action here from this author is to limit animal protein, not necessarily to eliminate it, to minimize it, he's saying. So the sort of goal that he poses here and presents to us is that we need to keep animal protein to less than 3 ounces a day. So that means having animal protein, but very, very little. I don't know how much 3 ounces works out at grams, but I'd imagine it's probably 100 or 200 grams, but I'll put it in the notes just to give it some proportion. The other thing that the author talks about is that we should be taking in carbs into our bodies, but complex carbs, complex forms of carbs such as purple potatoes, yams, and we should also be avoiding foods like rice, corn and grains, because what they do is they raise our sugar levels and insulin levels. So some clear advice there. So significantly reduce the animal protein that we take into our body, increase our complex carbs, the good carbs, and try and eliminate as best as possible the sugars, the flours, the white flour, the rices, and those sorts of foods. And another important point here, which many of us are not aware of, and the point is that we need to manage our cardio so that we don't overdo it. The author here says very, very clearly that too much cardio can stress your body, and by stressing your body, you're causing yourself health issues in the long term. So the message and the call to action is to not overtrain. And it's an interesting one, because we live in a time now where a lot of people spend a lot of time in the gym, hammering out and training really, really hard. But what the author's saying is that this in itself can be counterproductive, and it's counterintuitive, because if you're overtraining, then what you're doing is you're causing yourself long-term issues. So pan metron ariston, as the Greek philosophers once said, so to do everything in moderation, including eating, drinking, partying, and exercising. The next point is probably the key point for all of us to try and understand and to appreciate, and that is about sleep. Because from this author, sleep is the key. If you want to live a long, healthy life, then you need to manage your sleep. And you need to be able to reach a deep sleep on a regular basis, preferably every single night. And that deep sleep is where we enter REM. The deep sleep is when we're having those dreams, the technicolor dreams, and those wonderful, refreshed nights where you wake up in the morning and you just feel 100%. So the importance of sleep and deep quality sleep, is that it cleanses your body. It helps eliminate and remove the toxins that build up in your brain. It cleans the cells in your body. So this deep sleep is very important, because it's the time that our bodies clears the brain of all the toxins that have built up through the mental and cognitive processes and stresses that we've subjected it to throughout the day, with all the problems that we face and we have. So the way our bodies cleanse our brains is via the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system, when you're sleeping, when you're in deep sleep, comes through and flushes the brain and removes the toxins. And actually the cells in your brain actually shrink after this cleansing process and are available and ready to start functioning again once you wake up and you're ready to function again. So we need to, most importantly, we need to allow our bodies to cleanse, and to do this, you mustn't eat before bedtime. So the author here recommends that you don't take in food for at least 4 hours before you fall asleep, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to be sleeping in a deep sleep and your body to be digesting and doing all of that sort of thing, wasting its energy on digestion, when it could be using that energy to cleanse the brain and cleanse your cells. So do yourself a favor before you go to sleep. Stop eating well before you go to sleep. Drink plenty of water and allow your body to cleanse itself. So that's why sometimes when we've been out on a big night of eating and drinking and indulging, we have that sense of yuckiness. But that's really what's happening there, is that we've overloaded our bodies with calories, and our bodies haven't been able to clear out those calories, that alcohol and all that crap. And that's why we feel so bad, and we have a thing called a hangover. That hangover is basically the body's inability to cleanse itself. It's the brain's inability to remove those toxins because it's too busy digesting and clearing out all of the crap that we've loaded into it during that night of indulgence. So the third point, the last point from this author, is that we need to learn to listen to our bodies, because our bodies, believe it or not, our gut is trying to connect to our brain. And I've learned something new here, that there is a gut-brain connection. It's real. And our gut communicates with our brain, which then communicates with our heart and our digestion. And believe it or not, our gut actually has neurons. Just like the brain has neurons, our gut has neurons as well. 100 million to be exact, or to be, to put it into perspective. And our gut is responsible for our serotonin levels. I never knew this, but how important is it to know that serotonin, which is that relaxing hormone that gets secreted into our bodies, that hormone that relaxes us, which makes us feel peaceful and in harmony, actually comes from your gut. And that's probably why when we're stressed, we tend to want to eat and to overeat, because we gain pleasure from eating, because through eating, as we've just learnt, our body is able to secrete serotonin, and that pleasure hormone, that reward, is something that we crave and we absolutely love. So about 80 to 90% of our serotonin is secreted from our gut, to be, to put into perspective and to gain a better understanding. So it just goes to show that if you look after your body will look after you. And whilst we all may not live to reach 100, the key for each and every one of us is to live as long as we can, as healthily as we can. And to do that means to eat well, to sleep well, to exercise but not over-exercise, and to know that every input, every investment that we are making is potentially working for us in terms of improving our health and making our life better, our future life better. So it's worth considering. You don't have to go on a diet, but every time you sit down to eat, every time you sit down to drink, every time you sit down to do something, to exercise or to sleep, to know that what you're doing there is having an impact, a direct and immediate impact, which has long-term benefits. So take it seriously and enjoy the process. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Wednesday morning. It's midweek. It's going to be an absolutely spectacular sunrise. Unfortunately, I'll have to leave now and go to work, but in the next 15 to 20 minutes, there is absolutely no cloud on the horizon, as you can see, and it's going to be a bright, beautiful Sydney winter's day. The ferries are on the move, as you can see, and Sydney is slowly but surely coming alive. And I bid you a beautiful morning, a beautiful hump day, wishing you all the best, and try where possible to incorporate this learning that we have done today into your schedule and pass it on to your kids, to your partner, to your friends, because every book that we cover, every book summary that we go through, every learning that we accumulate is something that can contribute to our lives in a positive way if we apply it. Knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is potential power. But applied knowledge is where the power is. Being able to take something and use it and apply it is what's going to make the difference in everybody's life. So take care, wishing you all the best. Que taleme. Bye for now from Jim on Jim's 5am Club. Ciao.